Hello and welcome to this video. I'm Marcus Hayes, and now that Kat's gone to Las Vegas, I'm home alone, which means it's party time, right? Wrong. I've got loads of jobs to do on both of my Ford Escorts, so I need to pull my finger out. As usual, it's way past lunchtime before I'm leaving the house, but I did have to make my own breakfast and my own coffee this morning, which was a nightmare. I'm not actually sure if I'm going to be working on the Mark 1 or the Mark 2 today. I'll make my mind up when I get to the garage. I've got to stop off at a couple of places on the way, so I'll catch up with you once I've sorted all that out and I reach the garage. Right, so I've made it to the garage, even later than yesterday, but never mind. I received a text from the diff man to say that the LSD that I removed from the Mark II the other day is now fully rebuilt and ready to pick up. The diff man's going home at lunchtime tomorrow, so I have to get up earlier. So I should be around here tomorrow at a more sensible time. I'm also going to be going down to Carlo, the precision engineer, to pick up the spreader plates that he's made for me for MOREDOOR's sump. So tomorrow I'll be spending a day on MOREDOOR again. So today I think I'm going to pick up where I left off yesterday with Esther, my ST170 powered Mark 1. As you just saw, I picked up a couple of extra alternator belts from Lloyd's Motor Spares in South Harrow. Now, the good thing about these alternator belts or fan belts, it's quite easy to order them just by length. You don't necessarily need a reg or anything. Now, this 5 basically means that there's 5 grooves in the belt. The P, I believe, refers to the fact that the measurement of the length, which is here, is a metric measurement. The K, I believe, means that the belt is up to British standards or something, and then the 1220 is literally the length in millimetres. Now, the belt that I fitted to the Mark 1 yesterday is a 1200mm belt, and it seemed like it could do with being a little bit shorter, so that's why I've picked up an 1180mm belt from Lloyd's. And when I had that exact belt fitted to the Mark II recently, it seemed a little bit tight. So that's why I've also picked up a 1220mm belt. Now, I said to the guy in Lloyd's that surely if the engine hasn't been run with either of these belts fitted, it should be okay for me to bring them back. But he insisted that if they're fitted to the engine, I can't bring them back. I don't really see how they're going to be able to tell that they've been fitted, because they do literally just pull out of this cardboard sleeve. But I don't want to risk not getting my money back if either of these aren't suitable, so I'm going to use a bit of string to work out exactly what lengths I need for each car and whether either of these are going to be suitable. Now, that's obviously going to be quite a long-winded process if you compare it to just trial fitting the belts and then working it out. So I'm going to crack on with that off camera, and then I'll get back to you afterwards and tell you which belts I'm going to be using on which cars. Now, it did start spitting with rain on the way here, but the first couple of jobs I want to do on Esther today involve stuff in her engine bay, so I'm able to do those with her in the garage, and then if the weather improves later on, I'll pull her out. Right, so I've now worked out that the 1180mm long belt fits a lot better on the Mark 1. It's a bit close to this front cover, but there is still plenty of adjustment, so if I needed to, I could bring this idler pulley up a bit, and then obviously this alternator will be swung in slightly. But there's a massive gap between this pulley and the hose, so like I say, I've still got room to adjust things further if I need to. On the Mark II, I'm actually going to use the 200mm long belt that I got from Retro Ford. The other day, when I tried to get the belt on, it was quite difficult, even with the alternator swung in all the way. I tried to loosen this nut and bolt on the idler pulley and push that down, but it wouldn't go down, and I assumed that it was all the way down on its adjustment. But in fact, it was just a bit stiff. So when I loosened it today and give it a little bit of a tap, it was actually able to go down, which made the belt a lot easier to fit back on. So this 1220mm belt that I got from Lloyd's, I can now take back and get some money back. And with the alternator and the idler pulley adjusted how I've got it now, the belt seemed slightly close to this bracket. So I just shaved a little bit of material away with a flat wheel on a drill. Obviously, I haven't gone mad because I don't want to weaken this bracket, but as you can see, it's really thick. So, you know, a couple of mil for clearance isn't a big deal. Now, something I've just thought of that might help some of you out there, you'll notice that this car isn't running the retro Ford hoses that the Mark 1 is running. I wanted more of a budget solution for this car, and there's not that many people out there making hose kits that are suitable for a Zetec when you switch it to rear-wheel drive and put it in one of these old Fords. Now, I came across a thread on a forum that mentioned using Volvo and Land Rover hoses, and that is what I've done. I can't remember off the top of my head which one is Volvo and which one is Land Rover, or which specific models of Volvo and Land Rover the hoses came from, but I have got it typed up in my MacBook. So if anyone out there wants a more budget solution in terms of your hoses when you're running a Zetec in a Mark 1 or a Mark 2 Escort, definitely send a message to my Facebook page and I'll send you over the write-up and the little diagram that I've got saved in my MacBook. It might help some of you out. Right, the next thing I'm going to do on the Mark 1 is change these bolts that I put in yesterday that hold the fan to the radiator for some bolts that are the correct length. And I've got these M6 by 12mm, which I just picked up from Toolstation. Right, so I've got only 3 of the 4 smaller Allen key bolts holding the fan in because I've lost the 4th little square nut. So I'll have to do this one when I come across that, or get round to buying some more. I've made sure that I've done the bottom 2 because they were really fiddly. So now that I've got the fan mounted, I think it's about time I got it wired up. Now, those of you who have been watching my videos will know that I've already got the fan switch wiring ready. I'm probably going to need to change that fan switch though. I think with a Zetec you want the fan to come in slightly later. And when I mounted these 2 relays down here, one of which is the fan relay, I basically made sure that I had the power wire ready to wire up to the fan. So that wire will poke through into here where the fan is, and I just need to wire it up. The blue wire on this multi-plug for the fan is the power wire, so that blue wire that I've made will connect to that, and then I just need to make another wire that connects to the black wire, and that will go back through the same hole that the blue wire is coming from, and I'll put a ring on it and just screw it to the body with those other earths. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this multi-plug here for one of these ones that I got from Car Builders Solutions. I'll leave a link to their website in the description of this video. I might be able to actually get those spade terminals out from this connector rather than cutting it off and putting some more on. And then it will just be a case of putting these female spades on the blue wire that I was just talking about and the black wire that will obviously be going to earth. And then I'll be able to push those spades into this connector and then put the female spades into this connector, and then it will just connect together like that, and then whenever I need to remove the fan I can just unplug it like that. Right, so I've finished wiring up the fan now using this multi-plug, and the wires pass through there, through a grommet, and then the earth wire is attached there with those other earths. Right, what I'm going to do now is test to see if the fan's working. Now the way it works is that when the coolant gets to the desired temperature, this switch basically connects these 2 pins together and then the fan comes on. So to basically test the wiring, all I need to do is connect these two female terminals together that are inside this plug that will be plugged into the fan switch, and then the fan should come straight on. Right, so the fan came on, so that's working sweet, and I've just found the other square nut, so I can now put the 4th Allen key in that holds the fan to the radiator. Yeah, the weather's looking a lot better now. So now I think I'm going to pull Esther out of the garage. Right, so now that Esther's out of the garage, I've hooked her up to the laptop. Now, as I was saying in yesterday's video, I've switched the coolant and the air inlet wires round, and as you can see, it's now showing a reading that is more normal. The air intake is staying at 19 degrees and the coolant is rising as the engine gets warmer. One thing I want to try now that I've got those sensors round the right way is switch it back to the base map and see if it runs any better than it used to when it was on the base map. Now I think I can do this while it's running, so just go up to mapping, import from calibration, and then go to the GenV ST170 map. And the engine cut out. I'll try and restart it. In fact, what I'll do first is I'll also switch the ignition table back to the ST170 GenV base map settings, because that other table was just for the fueling. See if it will start. Winston to the rescue. Right, now that she's running, I'm just going to try and take some fuel out. Low down, because I'm pretty sure it's running too rich because it keeps shitting up the plugs. Yeah, I'm not going to mess around too much, but it's good to know that the coolant and the intake air temperature sensors are now wired up correctly. Whether I need to switch something around in the software and then put the wires back how they were so that it all matches the diagrams and stuff that I've got, or whether I just leave it how it is now, I'll find out when it gets mapped. Now, a minute ago I noticed that there was loads of fuel coming out of the exhaust, so I took away some fuel on the map and then it sounded like it was going to die, so I had to add a bit again. It's a little bit lower than it was, and there seems to be less moisture coming out of the exhaust, but I obviously don't really know what I'm doing, so I don't want to play around too much. So the fan has just come on. Like I said, it's come on a bit too early for a Z-Tech because that's the fan switch that was fitted when I had a Pinto, so I do need to change that fan switch, but it's good to know that it does come on. Right, so I've just whipped the plugs out to have a look at them and give them a clean. They're all black as expected, except for the one that was in number 4, and this actually came out covered in oil. Now I have just realised that I didn't torque up the rocker cover when I changed the gasket yesterday, so I've done that now, but while the plugs are out and while the engine's hot, I'm going to give it a compression test just to double check that there's nothing going on with the head gasket or anything. Right, so I'm going to disconnect the coil pack just so that the HT leads ain't trying to spark while we're doing the compression test. Right, got my associate turning the engine over for me. Alright, go on. Alright. It's only 100, but I am trying to hold it in with my hand, so I'm going to put the camera down so I can hold it in there a bit tighter. Right, so all 4 cylinders were around 100 psi, so at least they're all even. It wasn't turning over very fast because obviously the battery's nearly dead, so that might be why the figures were a little bit low. But I'm just glad that they're all roughly the same, because once I see that oil on that spark plug, I was worried that number 4 cylinder was basically going to give us 0 psi. So I think that'll be alright. I'm just going to clean the plugs up and then put them back in, and then I'll probably start the car again. Gonna have to use Winston to jump start it again, and then see if it's running any better now that it's got a set of clean plugs in it. Yeah, the exhaust seems a lot drier now that I've cleaned up the plugs. I mean, it's still running like shit, but... Right, so I noticed I had a bit of a puddle underneath the car, and I've tightened up the hose that goes into the water rail, which comes from the heater matrix, and then it seemed like it wasn't leaking when I was running it after that. So hopefully that sorted that out. Right, so I'm fast running out of light. But before I end this video, I want to talk about these dash clocks that have been giving me a bit of grief over the last few weeks off camera. Now, those of you who have been watching my videos will remember that I fitted this aftermarket voltage regulator to try and get the coolant gauge to work. And it's not working. When I wire it up directly, it works. And I've basically confirmed that the wire that goes to the coolant temperature sender is all okay, because if I power it up on this pin and leave this pin hooked up to the temperature sender, it works. But going through the original voltage regulator or going through this voltage regulator, it doesn't work. Now, I've seen a lot of other voltage regulators on eBay that don't look the same as this, and they're listed for like other cars, other Fords, Cortinas, Capris, and I'm pretty sure that Ford wouldn't change the part unless there was a reason to do so. So I'm not sure whether those regulators will work in a Mark 1 Escort dash clocks. But if any of you out there can tell me whether any classic Ford voltage regulator will work on my Mark 1 Escort clocks, I'd really appreciate it if you could let me know in the comments. I'm tempted to buy another aftermarket regulator. Maybe this one was faulty, or maybe I wired it up the wrong way round the first time that I wired it up and burnt it out. I don't know. But they cost a tenner, so I don't really want to buy one and then be in the same boat. So yeah, if you've got any ideas how to help me with this problem, please let me know in the comments. Now, I was hoping to maybe get the front brakes on Winston done today. Got a new set of pads and discs to go on him. But seeing as it's getting really dark now, I'm going to call it a day, pack up and go home. As I mentioned earlier, tomorrow morning I'll be picking up Maude's freshly rebuilt LSD, and I'll also be going down to see Carlo to pick up the spreader plates that he's made for her new sump. So tomorrow will be all about the Mark II. As always, if you thought this video was any good, please do give it a thumbs up and a share. If you thought it was shit, give it a thumbs down. Click subscribe and activate the notification bell to be kept right up to date with any other videos that I post in the future. Make sure you check out my Facebook and my Instagram, and I'll leave the links you need for that in the description as well. Until next time, thanks for watching.